Properties, and we're here tonight to go over what happened in the Arlington market, the Arlington real estate market last year. It was a wow. I mean, it really was a wow, one for the record books. So what's 2022 going to give us? So we'll give you a few of what our predictions are, and we'll go from there. But look, we're live streaming to Facebook, YouTube and Twitch. So if you have any questions, I will be watching down on my laptop for any questions that come in. So let us know and we'll see whether we can get to them during the session tonight. So why do we do this? Well, it's easy to get information and data today, but it's much harder to make sense of what's going on. Now, and this is why we take the time to explain, why we're serious about learning every data point in detail, and you know, why we study the markets day in and day out.
And we can bore you for hours on this very topic.
Yeah, we could.
As you will find out in a minute. Hopefully not hours, but just about 3/4 of an hour. Probably, we'll see. We don't run through these beforehand, so we don't know how long it's actually going to take.
We prepare, but we actually don't do a real life type of thing. So anyway, where can you find this information? On our website, we have probably, is it 12 or 16? No, 15.
Almost 20 different statistics.
20 different statistics, groupings of statistics. Yep. And for each one of those statistics, we do it for about 50 odd towns. So there's all sorts of information on our website. You can get to it just by going onto our homepage, scrolling down, statistics, bam, you're there. And you can choose what you want and how you want to do it. Now, the 2021 market review. If you live in Arlington, you'll be getting one of these in the mail shortly.
2.5 weeks.
Yeah. In a couple
First week
of
February. First week of February is the date. I have a deadline to get it to the printers, the end of January, which means we'll get it in the mail.
Yeah. So you will get
First week
one.
Of February.
We will have it as soon as it's produced. We will have it on the website and all of that. You know, a digital copy of the booklet on the website. So you will be able to get it many ways. If you don't live in Arlington, if you do, easy.
Or reach out to us and we can pop it in the mail to you.
That's easy too.
Easy enough.
So what's our agenda for tonight? We are going to cover first single family homes. What's happening with them? And I'm going to be interrupting a lot. You know,
it is what it is. I just have to deal with that.
Yeah, because we're married. That's what happens. Then we're going to go into condominiums. Then we're going to do new construction in Arlington. We're going to go into rentals there, and that is
there's something going on with the rentals.
And then we'll get into 2022 predictions. So let's get going.
Single families?
Yep.
All right. Inventory. You see these graphs all the time. We show in all of the graphs that we show the last decade. Now we're just coming into 2022. We've kind of lost in the middle of the crash data, which is why this graph looks like there's relatively high inventory levels. Reality is there isn't. Historically, if I showed you the data for the last 20 years, you would see that, you know, even in the peak of the market, there were only 50 homes to buy. This is a relatively low number in comparison to what we've seen previously. So this one's a little bit confusing a little bit, but I think what's important, and we'll talk more and more and more about this in a minute, is that you can see these were already relatively low inventory levels, slightly higher because of COVID and so on. But here we get to 2021, and as you can see, it's a dramatic reduction.
And what we should point out with inventory levels is we take a snapshot of how many homes are on the market at the beginning of the month. And that's the inventory levels. Now, we might be selling a whole lot more homes, but if there's a certain amount at the beginning of the month, well, how do I explain this?
No, you're right.
This is at the beginning of the month, but that doesn't count a home that comes on the market on Thursday, goes under agreement on Tuesday. A home that comes on the market Thursday, goes under agreement Tuesday. A home that comes on the market Thursday, goes under agreement Tuesday. And we're at the beginning of the next month again, and there's no homes. There's or a similar amount, but we've sold a lot during that month. So that inventory levels. No, I'm just going. So those inventory levels, when you look at where we are in the end of December, there looks to be about 11, 12 homes on the market. I had a look today. Today, there are 5 single-family homes on the market in Arlington. 5. And 2 of those, I'm cheating because I'm looking at my notes, 2 of them came on the market today. 1 was reviewing offers today. So there's 2 that didn't get offers last week that have carried over from last weekend. So 5 homes on the market, and 3 of those are basically new. 2 didn't get offers yesterday or the day before, but the days on market for them, 7 days, 8 days. They'll get offers pretty soon. So that is a huge, no, it's not a huge, it's a really low inventory levels. That's really low numbers of homes on the market. And there are buyers out there right now watching on a daily basis to see what's coming on the market. Okay. I'm good. Oh, but what I want to show too.
I'm trying.
No, keep
I've
going.
got my clicker. I'm ready to go. Keep going. But I have a lot more to show.
I was going to sort of talk about a little bit about the peak in fall of 2020.
Okay. We did that last year.
I know we did that last year, but some of the folks may not have listened to last year. So the peak that you're seeing in the fall months of 2020 was, we all remember COVID. Yeah, we're still living COVID. But in that first year, there was a whole lot of fear of people living in a group environment, if you like, in a urban environment, in a group environment, close proximity environment. And so we saw a huge number of condos coming on the market. And that's reflected in those fall numbers there. Mm-hmm. It settled down after about 6 weeks or so. Numbers started settling back down, but that's what you're seeing there. And we didn't see that this last year.
Correct.
Okay.
So, next graph I want to show you is the home sales. And Arlington home sales have been relatively static for a long time, at least the last decade or so. You saw they dropped slightly in 2020, but jumped right back up in 2021 to almost 300 existing homes, if you will, and a relatively small number, 14 new construction. So we saw quite a jump in the number of home sales in the Arlington market in 2021. Higher than we anticipated. We kind of expected it to be roughly where we were in 2020, but those numbers jumped up quite dramatically into this year. I'll get on to average prices in a minute, but one reason for that, of course, is that a relatively large number in the ground plan of things, 50 if you like, homes came on the market that potentially wouldn't have, but the high prices that we've seen in Arlington has kind of pushed sellers to bring their homes on the market, profit taking, for one of a kind of brutal way of putting it, but they saw house prices were high, and so they came on the market perhaps earlier than they would have, and so we saw that kind of bolus of new homes coming on the market in 2021.
Well, look, I hope this isn't TMI, but that encompasses us. I mean, Marcus and I are married. We had a rental home in Arlington, and we decided to capitalize on the market as well. We had a tenant that wanted to stay another 18 months after the lease finished, and we said, no, thanks very much, we've got to sell. And we did exactly what a large number of sellers have been doing.
Right.
Yeah.
But we shall see with the rental market, that's kind of interesting. But anyway, We digress. So, more homes came on the market. But what's interesting is if you look at the days on the market for the homes that did sell, it went down from, it's usually in the kind of low 20s. Here we are down to 15 days. So on average, a home spent 15 days on the market in 2021, which is a very low number. I'm not sure we can get in because of the technicalities of what days on the market versus days to offer and so on are. That's probably the lowest number we're going to see. But you can see very low days on the market, so a very strong market. You can see that even more when you look at the ratio of the sale price to the list price.
Yeah.
So imagine a home comes on the market for 700,000, sells for 700,000. That's a 100% sale price to list price.
109 is just
right. Arlington is usually running in the just over 100, 102, 103. A good year 104. But as you can see here in 2021, that went all the way up to 109%. And what we track this metric because it's a great indicator of buyer demand or buyer confidence in the market. So even though we saw more listings come on the market in Arlington because sellers were capitalizing on the high prices, we also saw a very large number of buyers in the market to the extent that they pushed that sell price to list price ratio up to 109%, which is, there are one or two towns that get close to that, but that's one of the highest ratios of all the towns in the area, for example. Most towns saw an increase, but not quite on that sort of scale. But it's showing that, very, very strong buyer confidence and buyer demand, even though more homes came on the market and more homes sold in 2021 than in prior years. So.
Well, I think what's surprising about it is how different it is or was to say what was happening in 2020. Mm-hmm. Because 2020 was still a strong market. That was a strong market, although, and just that difference, that extra 7%. Difference between 2020 and 2021, when really nothing intrinsically different happened apart from confidence in the market, the fact that people were migrating, we called it a mass migration across the country because these sorts of characteristics are being felt all throughout the country. But Arlington in particular in this area is the go-to place to go.
Right. That average of 109, if we break it down, this is the month, the orange line there you see. Ignore the blue, that's the number of homes that were sold. The orange line there, if I can kind of highlight, 100% is there. As you can see, in the peak of the market, it was over 110%. So on average, it was 109. But during that kind of homes closing in June, so realistically they went under agreement, kind of April-May timeframe, we were seeing the average to be well over 110%, which is a very, very high number. Mm-hmm. So strong buyer demand, put 109% sell price list price ratio, no surprise. Average prices have risen. No surprise there. Here's the average sale price for single family in Arlington. We've now got over $1 million. We were at $950 last year. This year we're at $1,069,000. So it went up just over $100,000 in fact. So that's a very strong number. Same is true of the median. They both came up. Median now running at about $950. So as you can see, it's a very high number. And that's what's driving seller confidence, if you will, coming into the market, knowing that, maybe I'm going to put it on the market a year or two before I initially anticipated doing it because I could see that there's those high prices and sellers thinking that perhaps that won't continue. We'll talk more about that, but there is that kind of, it's a really strong market this year. Perhaps 22 won't be quite as strong, so now's a good year to put my home on the market. In terms of cumulative sales, what we do here is we track when homes actually go under agreement. So the number you see for the sales doesn't quite match the number that are sold because this is talking about under agreement, when they go under agreement. We initially started plotting this to get a sense of what COVID was doing, and you can actually see it here. You can see this kind of orange bar here. Pink. This is COVID, pink bar. It's COVID, it's flattened, and this is when COVID kind of happened in 20, but we've seen a very, very strong market. Even after COVID the market normalized, it was a strong market in 2020. But as you can see, 2021 kind of took off and 2020 never actually caught up. So it was a very strong market in terms of the number of sales, and when they came on the market, once it kind of hit March, it exceeded what we did in 2020, and 2020 just never really caught up. So very, very strong market, high price increases because of lots of buyers in the market, even though we saw lots of sellers in the market. So single family, strong picture, clearly. Yep. Let's take a little look at condominiums. similar graphs I'm going to show you. Here's the sales graph. There's always some variability in the condominium market. There always is. It's just kind of natural. If you plot it out for the last 10, 20 years, there's always kind of a natural ups and down. 1 years are up, 1 years are down. But as you can see, a very strong market in 2021 with 286 existing condominiums selling. Basically, no new construction, as you can imagine. But that was a very strong number, highest we've seen actually for a long time. So similar effect that we see in single family. People in condominiums thinking now's a good time to sell, let's capitalize on the market, and that's why we saw more condominiums come on the market.
And let's tell you first before we go over.
Oh, okay.
Double checked again what was on the market today.
Right.
There's 8 condos on the market in Arlington. 3 were new today. 5 have an average days on market of 116 days.
That'll be something to do with price, will it?
Yeah, it will. Yeah,
We've got more to talk about price in a minute.
Yeah,
So.
Yes. So still not much inventory. So that's
Right. Yep.
that partly explains what we're seeing with the sale price to list price ratio, which is on the next slide. Interesting though is that it's not the highest we've seen. We have seen higher in 2017 and 2018. I wonder, part of this is, are people now starting to reevaluate what they're looking for in the home that they live in? Whereas previously you might have first-time home buyers, things like this that are working in the city or working, close in. They really, they can't afford a single family home, they'll buy a condo. And the condo market was strong. Maybe now what we're seeing is people starting to reevaluate that, because let's face it, we're going to have a hybrid work model for a while. I mean, this is what most of the companies are talking about. There's very few that are back full-time at work, physically at work. So maybe rather than people choosing to buy a condo close in, maybe they're choosing to buy a single family further out, which might explain that there's not as much demand for the condos as there were in 2017, 2018. I don't know. I just thought
No, I think that's true.
Yeah.
Tomorrow evening we're going to look at the Lexington market, and we look at single family and condominiums. There are a lot less condominiums in Lexington than there are in Arlington in terms of the ratio of single family condominiums. But we saw a very strong sale price list price ratio in single family, but a much lower sale price list price ratio in condominiums. So exactly the same effect. And I think some of that is, what am I looking for? Well, I need an office, because I'm going to be working from home 3 days a week. Can I find 2 bedrooms and an office in a condominium? That's a little bit more difficult, and so they're not as popular. Clearly they're lower price. If I kind of jump to the price of it, the lower price helps. It makes it they are more affordable, clearly. 700,000 is the average sale price, 1,069,000 single family. So they are cheaper, and that makes it more affordable, but I think that is that.
Yeah, when we're talking about a $700,000 average sale price, if someone bought in Groton, they'd get a pretty nice house in Groton.
True.
Or
That's
further
true.
out,
Further out,
Westboro, things like that. So I think people are starting to choose, I want a backyard, I think we're starting to see that. Whether it will come back, I think it will, but that one's a crystal ball as to when
Actually,
that's going to happen.
Yeah. Having said, we should point out that even though condominiums are not as strong as single family, they're still pretty strong. Here's the cumulative numbers here. A lot more so.
103%. Yeah. I know.
2021 condominium sales under agreements, cumulative graphs here again, exceeded what we had in 2020. So even though it's not as strong as single family because of what people are requiring in terms of the house they live in, it's still a very strong market. No question about that. No question about
Absolutely. And part of this is more just trying to explain the difference between single families and condos in the same town, because we're assuming that if you're watching this, you might be sort of thinking, well, why are single families 109% sale price to list price ratio and condos 103% sale price to list price ratio? That's a valid question. So, yeah.
I have a little look at new construction. It won't take us long. The challenge with new construction, go through the sales numbers anyway. First of all, new construction's declining, essentially, and it has been since 2018. And the challenge for new construction in Arlington is the strength of the single-family home market at the end of the day. With an average sale price of $1 million, even tear downs, buying a home to tear it down, the price of a new construction home, because of the size of the lot and therefore the size of the home that can be built, just doesn't justify that $900,000 price tag for a
to tear
tear
it down.
tear down.
Yeah.
So the builders essentially are priced out of the market because of the strength of the market.
Yeah.
Even though, the distribution, this is the sales distribution 18, 19, 20 and 21, you can see that it's moved into that 1.5 to 2 to 2.5, even 1 over 2.5 million. Even though the price has shifted, there are so few opportunities in that, the over 2.5, probably overlooking Spy Pond.
And it had to be a big lot for a builder to be able to buy it.
Or a unique location for it. And so it is because of the sheer strength of the market, of the single family home market in Arlington, the builders are just, in general, just not able to compete with those massive buyers that there are in the market. And so that's why we see those declining new construction sales in the town. And it will continue because single family gets more and more expensive, and new construction just hasn't caught up with it.
And what I liked seeing, and I didn't mention it before when it was happening, the home sales per year, where it had them split out between existing homes, new construction, and direct off-market sales, I think there was only maybe one.
Very few. Yeah,
there was one in the last year. Why I'm pleased about that is that, look, with the strength of the single family market, why would you sell off market to someone and not expose it to the wider market? Because, as a seller, you're shooting yourself in the foot, because there's going to be demand there. Sure. If you price realistically, there's going to be demand. You're going to have multiple offers, and you're going to sell it possibly over market value. Whereas when
actually, not possibly. Probably.
Yeah. When you're selling direct to someone off market, there's just one buyer that you're negotiating with, and you're not letting that normal market forces of supply and demand kick in.
Right, and which inevitably pushes the price up. Yep.
So I was really, really pleased to see that there was only one off market last year.
Yeah.
It always tears me up when there's lots of those, because you just sort of think the sellers could have gotten so much more money.
Indeed, they could have.
It's not hard, and but anyway, keep going.
So that's new construction, so it didn't take us very long. The rentals are really quite interesting. Let me show you the rental graph, because I'm not entirely sure I follow what's going on here. So this is 10 years worth of rentals, and you can see it's been rising quite steadily at a regular clip, if you like, in terms of the number of homes that are rented. But bang, along comes 2021, and we've got the best part of 125, is that right? 125 new rentals come on the market, be rented, excuse me.
I bet that's people who have been in their home for a long time and choosing what's important in their life, in their housing, choosing to buy further out where it's not going to cost them as much money, and keep my house and rent it out.
I think that's true. I think that's definitely
migration,
the case.
Migration of people we've been talking about. That would explain.
So that additional 50 homes sold, give or take. Here we have an additional 100 homes rented. So there was best part of 150 people who decided to move out of their existing home. Because one, capitalize on price appreciation in terms of selling, or I'll capitalize on future price appreciation by renting it out and moving to a home which better fits my needs. What's I think interesting about this one, and we think about, okay, so what about 2022? That means there's 125 people who moved into a rental in 2021. What are they going to do in 2022? Did they move into a rental because they just couldn't buy a home? And so here they are, they couldn't buy a home, so I'm going to rent in the town I'm going to live in. And I think there's definitely some of that. Now, whether it's all 125, well, time will tell. But I think what that says is that there is, thinking about 2022, there's potentially an awful lot of buyers already in the town in a rental looking to buy in 2022.
Waiting for a home to come on the market. Because there's only 5 at the moment. Or, 8 condos.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, they're and that's why these homes are getting snapped up so quickly and for such a high sale price to list price ratio.
That's true.
There's a lot of demand.
Right, and so that there's some of that going on. Say perhaps not all of it, maybe 50, maybe 75 of those, but certainly that's a bolus of buyers living in the town. And if they rented in Arlington, they probably want to live in Arlington. They didn't rent in Arlington to go and live in Acton, this year. Yeah. They rented in Arlington because they want to be in the town to buy. So there's a ready-made in the town set of buyers in 2022. But more on that in a minute.
I think where we're going with that, with that,
you about predictions
is if you're thinking about selling.
I think that's true.
This is the market to be selling in. As I said, capitalize. This is what we did. This is what we did personally. And if we were to give, if we took our own advice and we divested ourselves of a few rentals because the market is so strong at the moment. Anyway, keep going.
So rents have been relatively flat in Arlington for almost literally a decade. Or more. We saw a little bit of a jump this year. So even though there were an awful lot of rentals that came on the market, we still saw an increase in the rental return. So that's good. I mean, both positive. Normally when you see a huge increase in the number of rentals coming on the market, prices will be depressed. But that's not true. So there's still demand in the rental market there. But the question will be, I think, it'll be interesting if I kind of fast forward 12 months. If we look in 12 months' time, whether we've seen those renters have now turned into buyers, as well, they've got a little bit more capital perhaps in the market and be able to buy, and whether that number will be kind of decline or at least flatten anyway in 2022. Time will tell.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, but there are buyers out there, that's for sure. Let's give a kind of quick wrap up, if you like, in terms of what we see is going on. What we've overlaid here is the sales price distribution. So how many homes in each price bracket, if you will. 2020 versus 2021. Now the kind of orangey color is the teardowns that Danny was talking about a minute ago. Green is new construction, and the blue are existing homes. And I've kind of laid them, the scales are the same, so you can see kind of how it laid out. And essentially what we saw is an increase in the number of homes coming on in the 1 to 1.5 million. That's where the largest increase is, from 66 to 93 or so. And that's what's, of course, pulled up the average sale price. That kind of, as more homes over $1 million.
But it's also the 1.5 to 2 million. You've gone from 14 to 9, 8.
Yep. Yeah. So, the lower price points remained relatively the same, but the big difference there...
14 to 37.
Yeah, you're going
Sorry, I went to the wrong the wrong category. Right. You didn't correct me.
I was going
you
to.
Always do.
No, right, I don't. I didn't.
It's work.
I was going to do it, right? I was going to do it. So 66 went to 92, 93. 14 went to 36.
37. 36, all right. Okay. I thought it was a 9.
That's okay. Good. So that, we've seen that kind of shift to a higher price point, which is interesting. So the next graph is even more interesting because it really does begin to explain or show clearly the strength of the market. Now, here in the next graph, what I've done is I have plotted the sale price to list price distribution. So how many homes sold at what sale price to list price? And here it is. Now, normally, if I was to show you the 2020 data, it's about 65-35. 65% sell for at or over the asking price. 35 sell for less than the asking price. And that's been that's been pretty static over the last 4 or 5 years. This year, we've seen a big jump to 80-20. So 80% of homes that came on the market sold for at or over the asking price. 20% sold for less than the asking price. Now, you mentioned before about that home had been on the market for 116 days. I'm going to guess when it sells, it's going to sell clearly over in that
Below the
bracket here
asking
below.
price. Yep.
It's all about pricing. So
Yep.
this is an indication of good or bad pricing. Primarily, those homes which end up in the 20% bracket, poorly
Either
priced.
didn't present themselves well and weren't in good shape, made it the agent or the sellers made it difficult for buyers to get in and see the home, didn't have the right strategies in selling the home, and price is one. Yeah.
Because if you think about that 109%, you should have got asking price. If you'd done it right, even if you made a mistake or two, you should have got asking price.
Yeah.
So there's something seriously wrong with those 20%
I mean,
that sell for less than asking.
You've got one there that sold for what, 82% of asking price.
I don't know what happened there.
And you've got someone that sold for 152% of
There you
asking
go.
price. I bet there's some pretty happy sellers with
There
that
are,
one.
yes, there are. So,
Well,
so
actually, there's some pretty happy sellers with selling
With the
over
80%,
the
right,
100% period. Yeah.
in weaker towns, if you will, prior to this year, 50-50 was what you would ordinarily see. About 50% sold for over or at, and 50% would sell for less than the asking. So that was the norm, if you like, the control, if you will. So this is clearly 80-20 is a very high ratio. So that shows the strength of the market there.
And when you look at this, I have to say the psychology of selling is when you sell for over the asking price, compare the two. When you sell for at or over the asking price, oh wow, there's people out there that love my home. There's people out there that want to compete for my home. And you feel really good and warm and fuzzy and everything's roses. When you sell for below the asking price and your home's on the market for a month or 2 months or 3 months in this market where all of the analysts are talking about how it's such a strong seller's market and your home's just sitting there, nobody wants it, you leave the home thinking, gee, what did I do wrong, or how? It doesn't leave you with good and warm feelings inside. So it's so much better, when you can sell at or over the asking price, just from your personal, emotional health, well-being, you feel good. And that's our job as agents, is to make it stress-free and have you feel good, and it's a win-win for the buyers and the sellers. Because don't forget, those buyers that have paid over the asking price, they had to compete for your home, and you chose their offer. Yes, we got the house that we're falling in love with. So they're feeling really good, the seller's feeling really good. It's a win-win for both sides. So it's a nice way of moving on to the next phase of your life. Sorry, I got philosophical there.
You did.
Didn't
This
I?
is a market review.
Oh, okay.
Let's get back to some stats, shall we? Okay, back to some stats. Whew.
Okay, I slapped myself around. I'm back.
All right, so what's happening in the market? Having shown you all the data, a little bit of analysis of what changed 2020 to 2021. So what's happening? We've shown this slide before, actually. It's really about changing housing demands. Lots of reasons why the home that a homeowner was in 2018, 2019 just doesn't fit the bill in 2020. And specifically, as we see longer term that, as you were saying, that it's going to be a hybrid model, not just for first half of 2022. Looks like it's much longer. People are making decisions that, this is for real. I'm going to be in the office 2 days a week. I need to change the home I'm in. So lots of changing housing demands. That's one thing which is driving the market.
Well, our son moved from LA. He still works for the same company, but he's working remotely.
Right.
He's not going back to a hybrid model.
Right.
Because that's an awfully long commute.
Right, but the vast majority of people are. I mean, they are moving to that hybrid model. So
I know.
That's kind of hitting the market, and that's what's driving much of the activity we're seeing. But it's not just that. Again, I've shown these graphs before. This is about
Who are today's
buyers? Sorry, demographics was the word I was looking for. So there are two groups in this demographics. This is the demographics for the US based on the last census, and as you can see, there are males and females, but how many people are in each age bracket. And there are two brackets which are important. The higher bracket there is the baby boomers, those children who were born just after World War II, now getting to retirement, therefore they're thinking about downsizing. And we saw perhaps a bolus of those coming on the market as well as the rental market in 2021. Perhaps earlier than they'd anticipated, but that's what's driving much of the market in terms of selling in the town. They, of course, become buyers in another town, but that's kind of another story for another town. Then the lower yellow bar is the millennials, the first-time home buyers. They are just jumping out of a rental into their first home. Now, in 2021, some clearly remain in the rentals. We saw a strong rental market, but an awful lot moved into their first home. And so these two groups are driving the market too. And were it not for COVID, we would still be talking about this demographic shift in terms of what it means for the housing market, because this would be the predominant effect that was happening. And if you think about Arlington specifically, in terms of a destination, it's a great destination for downsizers from Winchester, Lexington, Belmont, those higher priced towns moving to smaller homes, more affordable homes in Arlington. Same applies, of course, to the millennials. Perhaps they want to stay close to Boston, if not for work, for leisure. Arlington's a very vibrant town. It's affordable in comparison to the towns around it, and so it's a great first-time homebuyer destination. And so that's what's been driving the very strong market in Arlington for the last 5 or more years, is this demographic shift. Now, of course, layer on top of that changing housing demands, you can see that that's what's pushing the housing market much further than we anticipated before COVID kicked in. A quick look at interest rates. They are hedging up. They're about 3%, the average for 2020. They look like at the end, we'll see quite where they go, but the predictions are usually rather poor. These are not our predictions. They're financial analyst predictions, and our experience is that they're not that accurate. Time will tell. They're clearly going up, there's no question, because of inflation and a whole raft of other issues, of course. But it may well be that that's pushing up to that 3.7, maybe even 4%, and that may begin to have an effect on buyers' ability to pay the prices that we've seen previously. But it's still a very low number. I've shown that, since 2009 there, you can see it's still one of the lowest numbers we've seen, in the last more than 15 years or so there. So it's not that big a deal, but it's worth kind of pointing it out. So, okay, great. That was fantastic, Marcus. Now what about 2022?
Well,
you want to go first or shall I go first? Because we won't. You got notes? No, you haven't.
Have you got notes?
No, I haven't. I know what I'm going to say, but I haven't got notes.
So, and I mean, obviously we talk about this quite a bit because, always meeting with sellers, meeting with buyers, talking about what's going to happen with 2022. I believe, crystal ball time, if only we had a crystal ball to be able to sort of identify this. I believe this year, at least the first 6 months of this year, is going to be very similar to what we had in 2021. I don't see any change in that at all, because we've still got low inventory, we've still got lots and lots of buyers out looking, and it really didn't slow down over winter. And I know we're still in winter, but typically by about mid-November, even early November, in a normal year, a normal seasonality year, by about early November, the buyers are starting to ease off because there's not many homes coming on the market. The buyers are not looking anymore. They go into hibernation mode, and then they start picking up again, sometimes sort of late January, early February, depending on the winter. We haven't seen it stop at all. The buyers are still out there buying. We had a couple of the agents in our team writing successful offers on homes in the couple of days in the days between Christmas and New Year. I mean, that's really uncommon. That's not normal. So the buyers they're not taking that winter period of time off. So our spring season is already starting. We're bringing homes on the market next week, and continuing on from there. Obviously, it depends on the snow. It depends on the snow. You don't want to come on when if there's a snowstorm.
When we got the snowstorms after January
2015, that was horrible.
Hopefully, we don't get that.
But it's really a thing that I don't see the buyer demand easing. That's going to continue. I don't see too many homes coming on the market, so still low inventory. Because my thought with that is, because 2021 was such a strong year, and everyone started thinking COVID was easing near the end of 2021, foolish that we were. And it really felt like maybe 2022 was going to become more a normal year, and the demand and the supply would start sort of settling off again. I just don't believe that's going to happen. It's going to continue on, but who knows what's going to happen after summer. Normally our fall market is relatively quiet. In 2021, the fall market was even busier than the spring market. So don't know past the middle of the year what's going to happen. I don't have a good feeling about that. What about you? What do you think?
So I think the first thing I would say is, I wouldn't read anything that talks about national statistics on real estate.
No.
If you think about what we just described here in the Arlington market with a large number of rentals. Oh, excuse me. I cheated then. There we go. So
now they know what the next slide was.
It's okay. It's not very exciting. So I would not take any notice whatsoever. I mean, they say real estate is local, and I think what we've just shown is that is absolutely the case. And so 100%. Reading anything into national statistics about new construction's going to be a lot more new construction and all of the comments, honestly, I rarely read it, because what's happening where we are right now, what's happening in Arlington, that's much more important. So first thing I would say for 2022, I wouldn't bother reading whatever Wall Street Journal or whatever it is, Fortune, whatever they talk about, the national real estate market. I would not pay too much attention to that. In terms of sellers, we clearly saw a large number of sellers either selling their home or bringing their home on the rental market in 2021. The question I have is that all of them? Or did half of them bring it on in 2021 and the rest of them think, you know what, it was a great year, 2022 is the year I'm going to bring it on? I suspect not. I suspect that was a bit of a bolus that came on in 2021. And we will return to more normal numbers in terms of the number of sellers into 2022. Now, maybe it's slightly larger than we saw in 2020, but I don't think we'll see the same number that we did in 21, because so many put their homes on the rental market and or sold.
Which means that price appreciation will continue to go up, because you've got lots and lots of buyers.
I think that's true. I think the rental market, there's lots of rentals out there, but they all rented. That shows that there's a large number of people who want to be in the town and are currently in the town. They will look to buy. So there's this bolus of buyers who want to buy. Now, clearly they could stay in their rental for another 12 months, but they want to jump on the housing ladder because price appreciation is on the way up. So I think we're not going to see a large increase in the number of sellers unless those rentals come back on the sell market, and why would they? But relatively small increase in the number of sellers, but a large number of buyers. So whatever does come on the market is going to sell quickly. So I do think you're right. We will see price appreciation. Strong price appreciation, maybe not quite as strong as this year, but certainly strong price appreciation in 2022.
Now, we might see more of those rentals come on the market in 2023. No, 2023, because of the fact that your capital gains tax exemption, you've got to live in your home for 2 years out of the prior 5. So really, a seller, if they've been in their home for a long time, they can really only rent it for 2 years.
Right, before they get hit with some capital gains.
Then they're going to start getting hit with capital gains tax. So maybe we'll see another year of those excess homes, and then they'll start coming on the market, but probably not this year.
I suspect not. I mean, it seems unlikely. If you were looking to sell your home, you would have sold it. if you're looking to rent it medium term anyway, maybe not long term, but medium term, that's exactly what you did.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense that 12 months later they go, oh, you know what, let's sell it anyway.
Yeah.
I think that decision would have been made in 2021. They may prove me wrong, of course,
Well,
but
we'll see.
we will. So that's kind of where we see, I mean, but clearly, however you look at it, a very strong market in 2022 with everything that we've seen. Because if for no other reason, the fundamentals of Arlington are still vibrant town, great school system, close to Boston for leisure and or work, and it's relatively affordable, we'll put it that way, in comparison to the towns that are around it. So it kind of begins to tick all the boxes.
And a new high school. It's just about
there we go. That's part of that great school system. So the fundamentals are good. So there is no reason why we would see a shift the other way, be it 22, 23, whatever. So the fundamentals in Arlington are very good. So
now before we end here, we've just got just want to sort of say, in the next day or two we'll have this presentation in a blog post on our website. So if you wanted to revisit it and wanted to sort of see it again, it will be on the website. You just go on to our homepage, hit menu up the top right hand, and then blogs is the top right hand block of things. And you'll find
hopefully we'll get it up
this
tomorrow.
Presentation there. But so why do we do this? Well, we think that our clients deserve to be the smartest people at the closing table, and really we all benefit by becoming smarter about home buying and selling, which is why I was so pleased to see not too many people did direct off-market sales, because
there you go.
That was good. Anyway, sorry about my philosophical bent at one point, but that's okay.
We got it back on the steps.
We got it back. Okay. Right. So I hope you all have a wonderful day, wonderful rest of the night. We're going to go and have some dinner.
And look out for the market review in mailboxes in first week of February. Yeah. Hopefully, I'm hoping to get it there the first week of February. It's kind of, we're building it as we speak. Now we've got all the data. So hopefully the first week of February will be in your mailboxes.
Yeah, but you've got this before you even...
There you go. Yep.
So anyway, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.